Good morning to all of you again. We'll have the next panel, the second one on this first international conference on sports foundations. And this next panel will look to the social power of football, making every sponsorship count. O próximo painel será o segundo nesta conferência.
This one will be the second one in this first Congress of the Foundations of Sports. And we're going to look to another social component of the football and the power that the sports and football have going against this, fighting with these causes, and to have a more equal and more inclusive.
Founder of Common Goal, and Robert Zitzman, Managing Director and Partner at Jung von Matt Sports, will explore how football as a unifying global force offers unique opportunities for brands to drive positive social change and reach diverse audiences through strategic sponsorship. Vamos então debater aqui.
So now we're going to debate in this stage the way that football can impose and must impose as a tool to have a better society, more fair and more equal. Let's start this panel. Please enjoy.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well? Good.
Perfect.
So thanks, first of all, to Thinking Football, La Liga Portugal, and this beautiful city, Porto, for hosting us. Really a pleasure to be here and speak to you. So today's topic is temporary, and it's actually, let's see if this works. Yeah. So go back to temporary. There's two reasons why we call this temporary. One is it should be temporary because we built it to disappear in 2030. And on the other side, if we don't manage to do what we need to do, which we believe is to radically collaborate, to radically teamwork, we're probably all bound to disappear by 2030. So this is like the reasoning behind temporary. And there's obviously Jung von Matt, Robert is representing here, and me from Common Goal. It doesn't matter really who we are. We just believe that we could see the opportunity here for sponsors and brands to play a significant role in order to tackle the challenges of humanity through football. And as we saw it, we felt like we must do it. So, but it's an invitation for everybody actually to be part of it. So it's not about us, but it's about what we collectively can achieve. So let's think about football. Obviously, we all know what football represents. Football is the one unifying force we have left on this planet. There is no politics that can do that. There is no arts that can do that. There is no music that can do this. There is no anything that can do what football potentially could do, but it's not doing it. And on the other side, we have the problems and the challenges in this world we are not able to tackle, actually. We had Millennium Development Goals, we have Paris agreements, we have Sustainable Development Goals, and we're just easily walking towards not achieving it at all. And running the risk of not having a future for the next generations. So how do we put these two things together? How can we mobilize what we believe needs to be mobilized, which is everybody, in order to achieve the one common goal we have, which is a sustainable future for this planet and the coming generations. So this is where we are placing ourselves. Now, you're a brand. Why is this relevant to you? If you don't get into this mindset as a brand, then better prepare to disappear. Because you lose your relevance, you lose your resilience, and you lose your reason to exist at the end of the day if you're a brand as an actor, as a player on this field. These numbers just speak for themselves. You won't get employees that are engaged, that want to work for you. You won't have customers who actually want to buy your product. And you won't have your institutional investors because they need to be value aligned with what you want to achieve. And that needs to speak to the people that live on this planet. And these people change. These people are more expecting more from you as a brand. Now, what does that mean for our sport? Same thing. Football can't just be or continue to be what it has been in the past. Football needs to interact with the world around it. And that, again, the expectation of the fan is similar to the expectation of the customer, is similar to the expectation of an employee. So, handing it over to you, Robert.
Thank you. I hope can everybody hear me? Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Jürgen. I think when we talk about the power of football and the necessity for football to be more than just a game and more than a business, so it can be the best business in the world, we have to look at sponsorship. We have to look at brands that impact football. And if we talk about some of the case studies we will show you in a little bit, the interesting thing is that most of the communication around a FIFA World Cup does not come from FIFA, but from the sponsors. And if you look at that audience that all the brands are targeting and going for, and this is why the media landscape is also evolving Gen Z, then their expectations is that brands do more than just entertainment. They have to provide impact. They have to be socially responsible. They have to fight for sustainability, for inclusivity, diversity. And that's why sponsorship, as one of the strongest forces of the sports ecosystem, has to change as well. And that's what we're here for. And that's what we would like to guide you through. So we brought 3 very, very easy principles and starting points where we feel sponsorship as a marketing discipline, as one of the strongest marketing forces of our time, evolving through any media transformation, being the most powerful content force in the world, needs to evolve. And and that starts with narratives. I met Chelsea fans last night. Thanks to Luis, I was introduced to one. And I also like the club, but I don't know what the club stands for. And I don't know what most of the sponsorships that come out on media stand for. We see these images all the time with CMOs, CEOs, and beautiful people holding up shirts and signing contracts. But I do not know what these partnerships want to achieve other than just being a commercial layout and supporting and engaging with fans, so to say. So now we have the situation that there's big clubs also looking for money, for advertising money, for sponsorship money, but they are not getting it. Because from a brand point of view, given the facts that also Jürgen has pointed out earlier, why should I invest in a sports property if there's no social impact connected directly to it, but solely entertainment? There is enough reasons to be a Chelsea sponsor, even without being a Chelsea fan, but we are asking ourselves why. And there is more to it. So it needs to start, sponsorship needs to start with the narratives between rights holders and the sponsors. Clear objectives. And one objective of this session today is also to point to football, as Jürgen said, being the strongest force, the biggest sport in the world, one of the greatest inventions of humankind, if you wish. But if you look at the biggest and greatest sponsorship campaigns that have a social cause and have impactful narratives and storytelling that goes beyond promotional purpose, then we have to look at the Olympics. And my personal favorite case study is Procter & Gamble, who have for a decade talked about the moms, the mothers of athletes, and thank you, moms, as being one of the greatest case studies, going way beyond the actual athlete and the performance, what is on the pitch, what we could call in football. So there is potential for meaningful stories and storytelling and fan engagement way beyond the promotional cause, and this is where sponsorship needs to go to. Some of you may know this guy, the dude with the sign. I found this one and I really liked it. Let's stop doing sponsored ads. If we look at content consumption and the power of advertising products or brand messages, it should not be advertisement. It needs to be more. One of my favorite proof points this year was when Patagonia said we are giving our company to the planet, and that's what we are not doing here today. But we are looking at proof points. We are looking at tangibility. What are brands actually not just doing, it's not just saying that they are doing, but are they walking the talk? And that's where you will see some of our case studies now going to. Brands will have to do something actually, do something impactful, and not just promote messages and products. So we brought 3 case studies for you today. I will hand over to Jürgen to guide you through our very first one.
So the first one we wanted to share with you is on Adidas. And Adidas being probably the brand that is historically most linked to football as a sport. So very close to what one would call the DNA of football currently. And obviously the ball as a central piece to football, because without it, that obviously doesn't work. So that was the starting point to have a conversation. And I don't know if you know that common goal, like the term of radical collaboration, we translated it into a 1% contribution. So what common goal is asking everybody to do is contribute 1% of what you have to a collective effort to work towards what I'm talking about, which is a sustainable future, both from an environmental as well as from a social perspective. So what Adidas decided to do is to contribute 1% of their global net sales of footballs. So obviously that is, on the one hand side, it's a good commitment for a start, because we believe that is just the start of a journey, because what happens to all the other products, what happens to all the other sports, what happens to your athlete engagements, what happens to your club engagements, what happens actually to your sponsorships. So there is a lot to grow into still, but it's a good starting point. And the interesting thing, like from a social impact organization or initiative or movement perspective, is you start to participate in the market logic. So the win for Adidas on the market in terms of brand equity or brand love, and therefore selling more products, translates immediately back to the social impact that can be achieved based on the increased sales, because it's 1% of whatever is being sold. So it's an interesting dynamic, like for the social impact space to get into anyway. And the collective piece on the other side, like the ambition of every brand or everybody who donates, say, money or anything to anything, is, okay, what is my personal impact? What is my brand's impact? Like, how can I own these kids? I'm impacting their lives, right? How can I report in my annual report on specifically these kids or these disadvantaged community? And this is just not possible. There's so many factors acting on every individual on Earth that if you donate a certain amount of money, you cannot claim this impact for yourself. So anyway, you need to find yourself in a collective narrative around, I'm contributing to an impact of a scale that is bigger than myself. I'm contributing to that. Everything else you say or you do is not true. It's just not true. And we should stop doing that. We should stop thinking that we as an organization, we as a brand, individually can have a lasting impact on anything. We need to work collectively. So that was just the campaign that was then built, the focus of the investment during the Men's World Cup in 22 and the Female World Cup, which is recently experienced in Australia and New Zealand, was to talk about gender equity and to invest in gender equity and to translate that into a campaign which was the Half Ball campaign, saying that when you were watching the Men's World Cup in Qatar, you were only watching half of the game, because the other half was about to come in Australia and New Zealand, which is the female game. So that was then the sort of the narrative that was built around that. And there's other opportunities, like where you can leverage this artwork, for example, was with a focus on Play Proud, like LGBTQ inclusion. And it was performed at a match at the Rose Bowl in the United States, like the biggest stadium, or probably one of the most emblematic stadiums, where Juventus played Real Madrid. And we put this artwork inspired by the Pride movement on the jerseys, for example. And then these jerseys could be sold, etc. This is just an example of how things could go here with Adidas as the core partner.
Thank you, Jürgen. A brand not as much naturally, natively loved, not as endemic as Adidas as part of the game, who immediately contribute to social change by actually growing the game so much over decades, is Hyundai. And while we talk about Saudi Arabia at the moment so much, less than a year ago we were all talking about Qatar and the World Cup in Qatar and how difficult it was for all the associated brands and sponsors to actually have a positive impact. I'm not talking about social impact, but not about receiving shitstorms for actually being an official FIFA partner. So it was the most difficult brief I've ever worked on in my life, It was 3 ingredients, basically, and you feel like, how can we bring this together? You talk about automotive industry, one of the most difficult industries in the world when it's about reputation. You talk about a subject that we were given to promote and to evolve is sustainability. And you talk about a football World Cup in Qatar, a tournament in the desert where you do not feel like this is naturally a sustainable event, neither socially nor environmentally. What we did is we developed for Hyundai a creative platform together with Common Goal. It's called Goal of the Century, and I would love to give you a snapshot into how this conceptually and then tactically has been brought to life. The first thing is the mechanic, the storytelling. We talk about messaging all the time, and it's so important, not because we are just advertising, but we want to communicate with people because action starts with awareness, and this also counts for sponsorship. And this is why we need to be working with T-shirt English. We need to find language that is easy to understand, that translates from the game to a bigger cause. And this is why we worked with the aspect or the multidimensional meaning of goal. And then we went into the FIFA archive and felt like, hey, there is this greatest goal, the goal of the century scored by Maradona. We were able to use it in our creatives also. And then there's a greater goal for the world that actually all sponsors should go for. And that's a social cause. And Hyundai has an agenda 2045 to be carbon neutral by 2045. So they are leading the automotive category and industry in multiple dimensions, have been awarded World Car of the Year now 3 times in a row with their mobility. And this is what we try to bring together with Goal of the Century. And then most importantly, the campaign could not start without one substantial element, the pledge of 1%. You could see, similar to Adidas, 1% of the fee that Hyundai was given to FIFA for the World Cup sponsorship was contributed to Common Goal and dedicated to social programs to impact on sustainability. That was the substance, the fundament of the campaign, and we would love to show you a film now.
The World Cup. Everyone's watching. Big brands, bigger business, the biggest sponsorship deals.
It's crazy, it's beautiful.
All there for the same thing. Sell more, shift more, make more. While all the big brands use the World Cup to draw attention to their products to make more,
We redirected the world's attention to this.
less CO2, less emissions, less waste, less plastic. We kicked it off, built a team. That's BTS, and yes, they rewrote that song. Then Steven Gerrard made his pledge for the planet.
Liverpool legend Steven Gerrard just pledging to plant 500 trees for each one of England's goals.
지속 가능한 세상을 위한
Then we asked the world to make their pledge,
Hyundai Team Century.
and the world showed up. Avijit from Mumbai and the boys used one TV for the whole month, even to watch their favourite soaps. Michelle from Southampton unplugged her washing machine for 6 weeks. Christina from Korea, Yasmin from Oman, and Wesamel from Agadir went vegan, even though he's a butcher. Plus a few friends too, even Cristiano.
This is my pre-match vegan meal, contributing to a better world. See!
When we wanted less, we got more. Most talked about brand. Most loved brand. And one final pledge to the world. When everybody put their logo first, we put Earth first.
Yeah, you may give a round of applause for this campaign if you wish. No, thank you, just kidding. I think what this case shows so nicely is creativity connected with social impact can be really powerful. And in terms of power and performance on a sponsorship level that have to report engagement figures, awareness figures, sentiments, this was really strong and powerful. It was a huge program rolled out globally. And the most interesting piece here is the campaign didn't start right before the World Cup like any other sponsorship campaign would do. This campaign started on Earth Day, April 22nd in 2022. So there was almost a 1-year program running around sustainability and also disconnecting to the World Cup itself as a football event, but actually as a global movement. So you could see there have been a lot of ambassadors outside of the game. We had architects like Lorenzo Quinn. We had one of the most relevant music bands in the world, BTS, with K-pop, and what they deliver on social media is just insane, writing a song for this campaign. And of course, we had strong ambassadors like Nadia Nadim, who's a female footballer and Common Goal associate that delivered a Common Goal project with a pledge. So these were some of the core ingredients, and that really made this a powerful campaign. And I'll hand over to Jürgen to finish off with our third case study.
So yeah, here we come to a broadcaster. So the idea was to give you a bit of a bandwidth of different approaches. And here the interesting thing is the pledge of 1% of airtime, actually, and to contribute, obviously, their assets, which is produce stuff, for us to campaign on different topics, which was mental health around the Female World Cup, it was gender equity, and it was climate action. So here just a few images. It was around the Women's World Cup. We organized a festival around that, which became then 2 hours, 2 hours of the airtime during the World Cup, linked to the games, in halftime, pre-match, post-match, and during commentating, and actually the commentators being educated on what's happening in this relationship. Maybe we have here also the other film, just to give you an idea of what has been produced around the World Cup. But the core thing being, it doesn't have to be necessarily 1%. Here it also translates into a financial contribution, but it can also be just 1% of the assets you have, 1% of the platform you have, but do what you can in order to be part of the collective effort.
Hey Trin.
Hey Megan. Hey Nay. It's me.
Every day we face adversity.
I know how you feel.
I've been there too. The mental hurdles seem high.
But I'm here to support you. Sure, some days you might feel like it's too much.
But you got this.
You got this.
Dig in. Reach out. Vulnerability is a sign of strength, not weakness.
You're not alone.
Together,
We have a common goal.
together we are unstoppable.
Let's do this.
So the interesting thing here, or the tragic thing, if you want, those of the US women's national team who were actually spearheading this campaign had lost one of their teammates a year ago to suicide because of mental health issues. So what they felt very strong about collectively was to pick up actually the topic of mental health and lead it into a long-lasting campaign, which was kicked off during the World Cup in Australia and New Zealand. So, the message of this all, we are here to support this to happen, like this collective effort, and actually serve the brands, in this case, to do the next step and make their sponsorship count. And we very much believe that we have, as among other things, we have to redefine our understanding of exclusivity. We can't exclusively save this planet. We can't exclusively have a mark on progress so that everybody is part of a sustainable livelihood moving forward. We need to understand that we need to be part of something bigger than ourselves and put what we have at that service. And that's exclusive to everyone, because nobody has what you have. So do what you can in order to be part of that collective effort, and we're here to help. Thanks very much.
Cool.
You want to do a selfie?
Yeah, we'll do a selfie.
Huh?
We'll do a team photo.
Let's do this.
Thank you, everyone.
Smile.
Smile. Thank you.
Thank you. Be well. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
You take this.
Thank
You
you.
have your name
Oh,
inside.
okay.
Ah, okay. Thank you so much.